a special guest, like always.
Hi.
So yeah, this is my wife, guys. This is Acti, and I want to tell everybody thank you for tuning into the last live stream we did. We didn't have a lot of people in the chat that time, but you're more than welcome to come in, leave comments, leave a like, get the discussion going, and thank you to everybody who watched it later on the playback because that was my biggest live stream, and I think it's because everybody just loves my wife more than me on my own channel. But say hi, Acting. Go ahead.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I don't know what to say. I'm nervous. I'm always nervous.
But yeah, we have an interesting topic that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about this society in Africa that is basically a matriarchy and it's also matrilineal. And for people who don't know what matrilineal means, it means that something is passed down from the mother, meaning that wealth or power or whatever we have in this world is passed down from the mother. So, like the power lies in women in that sense. And matriarchy means a society that is ran by women or where women are the ones who are in charge generally, right? So
Yeah.
those are definitions of those two things. But my wife, Acti, sent me this very interesting documentary from DW. So, Acti, can you explain how you found it, what it's about, etc.? Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know. I just ran across to it in YouTube, and it's basically about this small island called Orango in a country called Bissau or Guinea.
Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau.
I'm bad with names, but yeah. So yeah, basically it's about this island, and in this island it's matriarchal. Woman kind of run the business and stuff like that. And this is, I don't know, like it's what the documentary explains.
Yeah, yeah, basically. So, yeah, for people who don't know, Guinea-Bissau is a kind of a large country in Western Africa, though small when you compare it to others. They were dominated by the Portuguese for many years. So if you go there, they speak Portuguese. I've met somebody that went there, and they said it was a very beautiful country. And yeah, basically, there are a chain of islands off of the coast of this country. And on there, on some of the islands, if I remember the name of the chain of islands, it's Bisagao Islands. And one of the largest islands, named Orango, the women are there and they control the society. And it's very interesting, very interesting. So, what did you find interesting about this documentary?
Mm, well, to me, like before I watched it, of course, they have this striking title that says, this island is run by women and things like that. And then when I watched it, it was like, from the outside, they look like just any other woman doing housework, taking care of their families and children, cooking, washing clothes, and whatnot. But also in the background, they are doing all these things that are like sort of religious, and also they decide when to harvest things. They decide kind of like the economy of the island, which kind of proves that yes, like women can do those stereotypical things that are assigned to women, but then they can also do so much more. They can handle much more pressure. And it was nice that the women in this island were basically crushing that idea that men say, oh, women are too sensitive to, be in politics or being involved in, economics and all sorts of stuff like that. So that was like one of the things that I got from the video. What about you?
Yeah, for me, what I got that was interesting was that, this story takes place in Africa. And unfortunately, Africa is very underdeveloped. And when people think of poorer places or underdeveloped places, they think of tradition, they think of patriarchy, they think of a society that where men are in charge and there's not a lot of freedom for women. And to see this story take place in this society was kind of like interesting because it's like totally different than what you would expect. You would expect this very poor, rural, remote place in Africa would be traditional patriarchy, but it was not. And they made this society in the documentary look very appealing. Like there were parts like, "Hey, I kind of want to live there. I want to climb coconut trees. Let the women be in charge." That's how I kind of felt while I was watching it and stuff like that. But that was my general first impression of it. You have anything
Mm,
you want to add on to that?
let me think. I don't know. It looked like you said, it looked like a very peaceful society. It was interesting that, that's also like my thought, and maybe that's like sexist in its own way. I don't know, but I always thought if women ruled the world, there wouldn't be as many wars as we had. And it was interesting that even though this island was also colonized by the Portuguese, they decided to pay heavy taxes. So they went like the hard way, basically. Maybe I don't know if it's the hard way, but yeah, like they decided to go against not having war and things like that. So that was like
Mm.
interesting, and that kind of like made my point stronger, but I don't know if that's also sexist a little.
That's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. For people who don't know what we're talking about this society in Africa that's ran by women. It's in Guinea-Bissau. And basically, what she just said is that, when the Portuguese came to West Africa, they tried to take over the islands. But because the women were in charge, they decided that they were going to give up like their cows, their sheep, their goats, like a lot of their animals to the Portuguese to not go to war. And we're going to talk more about whether that was the right thing or not. I have
Um,
opinions about that. But yeah, it was interesting because I do think there will be different outcomes depending on who's in charge. Like, I do think that maybe women might consider things differently than men when we're talking about like going to war or, that sort of stuff. But back to like the society there, like, did you think that the society there was like more equal than like a society like that would have been ran by men? Or do you think it was generally like the same?
I thought the woman did a good job of like breaking down tasks and giving everyone responsibilities. And also, it was sort of like this community that clashed, not clashed, but combined socialism and capitalism a little bit, because in the documentary it says that they have like private lands, but then they also have collective lands where they harvest things together. And at the same time they trade with other places. They produce like those mats that they do from palm trees and different types of oils and peanut butter and things like that. So yeah, like they also are kind of like open to other nations. They trade with them. So that's like the part of capitalism, maybe. I don't know. Like it's I think I thought it was like interesting and kind of like conflict free.
Right. Right. I think, on one hand, their society seemed a bit more equal because, like, the women sort of made it so that everybody had, like, their duties and that they were going to trade with the outside world and they were also going to have peace in their community. But I think we have to remember, like, their tribe on this island is very small. Like, it's less than 1,000 people. In the
Yeah.
documentary, you kind of only saw, like, the same 10 or 20 faces, you know? And I think a smaller society is, of course, going to share more, But if this was like a bigger society, I think we might see some unequalness, some disparity, that sort of thing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Like if it's on a bigger scale, it's going to be harder, but I don't think it's impossible to do that, to be honest. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know, it could still be like this big societies that we have, they could still be divided into, certain segments, and then, those collaborate at the end and things like that. So it's not like I feel like a communist talking like this, but like, I don't think it's impossible because, yeah, like in their society, it looked like nobody was hungry. Like, no, there wasn't any like starving people. I know it's a small community, of course. So when a community is that small, they're going to help each other. If someone doesn't have food, they're going to give him food or her food and
Hmm.
whatnot. So, yeah, I don't know. I just loved the sense of community that they had.
Right, right. So on this island, speaking of food, guys, on this island in Africa where the women are in control, they have a lot of different foods that grow there, but it seems like they have mostly a fish-based diet and also a diet heavy on vegetation, particularly nuts like peanuts and cola nuts and different nuts, like different sorts of things. What did you think of the food that they were cooking? Because when we were watching this documentary together, they were cooking like this rice with peanut stew and fish on top that was boiled. I was like, that actually looks good. I was like, I would eat that. I would eat that. What did you think? Be honest.
Okay, being honest, it sounds good. It didn't look that good. It sounds better than it looks. But it's like it's fish. Fish is always good, and they literally catch it like, you know, 30 minutes ago, and then they just eat it. So I'm sure it's like good. I'm sure it's delicious. It just didn't look that appetizing. But as a Turkish person, like not everything needs to look appetizing to be delicious. So
We
I'll
know.
definitely,
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
have a chance to try it.
Yeah, but no, think about it. When we went to Africa, think about what was the best meal that we ate in Africa. Because I already know the answer. If it's
Are you
not
gonna
what
say
I'm thinking,
pizza?
no, 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 not the pizza. The best like dish that we ate in Africa. What was it? You don't remember?
Yeah, I
In,
mean
in
that
Mombasa.
fish we had in Diani was really good.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
the chicken, grilled chicken, and things like that was really good. But the fish is really like fresh, and they cook it with a different aroma.
Listen, listen. The best food we ate in Africa, like she said, was the fish at Diani, and Africans do not play with the fish. Some of their other foods, not so good for me. For me, but listen, the fish, the seafood in Africa, like in Kenya, was great. So I'm sure in Guinea, it's the same thing. I'm sure they do it right. So
And
that's why I said, yeah,
the fish samosas were also like lit. We were
yeah.
like five of them every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what did you think about this part of this like African society where even though the women are in charge, there are still like somewhat traditional gender roles. Like when you watch the documentary, guys, you'll see that even though women are in charge, they still stay at the houses and clean and take care of the kids, and the men still go climb trees, go fishing, go hunting. What do you think about that? What does that say about, matriarchy, gender roles. What do you think about that?
I think in the Western world, um, woman might be considered the boss of the house sometimes, not all the times. But they are like we are certainly not the boss of work, or most of the time we're not like boss outside. But in their society in Orango, it's like women rule the house, therefore they rule our community, because house and family is the core of our community. I think they see it like that, and that's
Mm,
they respect it so much, because like women bear children, and they take care of children, they feed everybody, they basically make everything to keep everyone alive.
hmm hmm
uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that just shows their respect for maternity, for um raising a child, taking care of a man, taking care of a house, a family. I think that shows their respect in that, and I applaud them for doing that, because
Okay.
Western societies that is taken for granted.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely in like our societies now don't appreciate all the work women do that goes unpaid and unrecognized. We sort of just take it for granted that they're supposed to, not this sounds sexist, but they're supposed to take care of the kids, make the dinner, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? But I found that really interesting because there are some people that say, if we went back 1,000 years, right, and we had no modern technology, patriarchy would come back because gender rules are natural within us. Men naturally want to be powerful, protective, and dominate and go out and hunt. And women naturally want to stay with the kids and stay and do less stressful activities. I don't know because when I saw that, I was like, that's confusing for me because even though we have this society with different norms and rules, like those talking points or those ideas about traditional gender rules sort of still happen. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, I get your idea, but stressful how? Because, yes, maybe it's stressful for a woman to climb up palm trees, so it's stressful physically. It's tiring physically because women already have to do a bunch of stuff around the house. They have to get pregnant, also, raise their children, and that requires some amount of physical like work. So then on top of that, maybe to expect women to do even more physical work might be like, too tiring for them, which is okay.
Right. Right.
And
But I just want, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay. I was just gonna say, like, since men don't, do stuff around the house, or maybe they do also, but they can, also do some other stuff outside in the wild. But that doesn't mean women can't handle mental stress.
Okay. Okay. But like,
Like, that's just assumed in the Western society. Like, they just assume that women cannot handle that mental stress, or they don't have that mental capacity.
right. Maybe stress is the wrong word to use, but that wasn't really the point I was trying to get at. What I was trying to say is when I imagine a matriarchal society, right? That I imagine, okay, maybe the gender roles as well will be reversed. In this matriarchal society, those women go out and hunt and fish, and then
Mhm.
the man stays home and cooks, cleans, takes care of kids. That's what I meant to say. Like, as in, you know, we think that patriarchy exists now because gender rules and how men and women behave are inherently different. And so it's natural. But when we look at this society, there's still some of that traditional gender rules and it's not reversed. Do you get what I mean? You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yes. Okay. I get it. I was gonna say something and I forgot, but um, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. I remembered. So yeah, the thing is, I think like just because the gender roles are not like exactly reversed,
Mm-hmm.
uh, maybe it's like I can say that it's kind of makes sense for a woman to, stay at home with the child, if specifically if they have a child, because yeah, like that's kind of also how it is within the other like animal world and things like that. So that's kind of like that instinct that you have to protect your child like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's that maternal instinct, and maybe that is the reason, but
Right.
that doesn't, again, like repeating myself, that doesn't mean women can't accomplish other types of different things, and that doesn't mean they can't take on more responsibility.
Right. No, absolutely. And I agree with that. Like, I agree with that. I think 1,000,000%, like, women can do both things. It was just interesting to see that, the women could have climbed the tree too. They could have fished too. But I don't
But
think a man, huh?
they told men to do it.
But
They
they
said,
told the man to do it,
"Oh,
right?
that."
And maybe the perception of it is different. Maybe in this society, how they perceive that type of work is different. Because I think right now in our societies, like we view what the man does as a bit more important, And maybe in that society, and they didn't speak about this in the documentary, so I'm just assuming, they assume that what the man does is, it's important, but not as important as what we're doing as women. And maybe that's a difference, even though the roles are generally the same as what we have in our societies. They're just perceived differently. You get what I mean?
Maybe it's the motivation, because in the Western world, specifically like in the European world and the American world, it's like everything is focused on earning money and power, right? And power, what is power? It's money. The more money you have, the more powerful you are. But in their society, it's more about surviving and harmony, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why maybe the value we put on certain like roles are different,
Right.
because in our societies, in Western societies, money is more important then we put more importance in the person who makes the money. But in
True.
their society, let's say survival and harmony is more important. Who provides
Right.
that? Women provide that. So then they put more emphasis on women.
Right, right. No, and I think that's a very good point. You're bringing up harmony. And I think, you know, once again, this is a smaller society. So there is a higher value placed on societal harmony, right? If this was a much larger society, there's less need to have harmony because people have their own groups and cliques and families within the society. But in this small tribe, of course, everybody has to be on the same page for them all to survive. So that's important. And I just find this very interesting about this part about the documentary. A lot of it, as you watch the documentary, a lot of the things in their society are changing. So, like the girls back then, they used to go through a ritual, like a certain dance with the devil or something like that. They called it devil dance. And then that's how they became women. And they could not have kids or get married before they did that. But now, a lot of the women, the younger women now, are, having babies before that, and that's now being seen as the status of becoming a woman and that sort of thing. What do
Yeah.
you think of what do you think about the modernization of this tribe and it coming closer to the modern world? Do you think this is going to be a bad thing or a good thing for this society?
I don't think it would be necessarily bad because there are a lot of advantages that come with technology, but I also think it is important to keep like your values because that's like one of the things that I loved about Africa when I was there, that they respect, for example, nature so much. They're just like that was also like when I said harmony, that was also inside of that too. Like they're so harmonized with their environment as well, with the nature
Mhm.
as well. So like I think those things also like, women maybe losing some of their values as they get more westernized.
Mhm.
That is of course like a negative thing, I would say. So like I would think that's a negative thing.
Okay, but some people would say like westernized also means feminism because westernization is feminism is within it. Look, let's keep it real because when they say they want to westernize Afghanistan or westernize Turkey or the Middle East or whatever part of the world people think is backwards, people say, okay, we want the girls to go to school, we want women to be able to have jobs, we want them to have access to birth control because that's what some people consider feminism and westernization. What do you think about that?
I think there's levels to that because in order for a society to embrace feminism, or of course, like some societies could embrace it better, like Orango. I would assume, like, if they were to be completely westernized, feminism would be one of the first things that they might embrace. But
Mm-hmm.
also the first thing they would be introduced wouldn't be feminism or LGBTQ rights or anything like that. It would be capitalism
Mm-hmm.
and technology, and of course there are good things like medical care and things like medicine and things like that. Those would be the first things that would be introduced, and then feminism and all of that other like little things that rich people don't really care about, like not
Right.
rich people, but the people in power don't really care about, and they're kind of like, I don't know. For like societies like Turkey and things like that, these concepts are just things that we idealize because we don't have those in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, like sometimes these just feel like baits
Mm-hmm.
to me to sort of achieve Western ideal.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, feminism can be seen that way. Like, they say they want to send girls to school and let everybody work, but it's not because, you know, capitalists or the people in power really like women. It's because they just want more workers, more people that can go to work and make money for the companies and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, like you said, it's sort of like a bait, but then also, at the same time, we have to admit that those are positive things that we still do like. about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a anti-feminist. I am a feminist, but
Because when
I'm just saying, like, sometimes they feel too commercialized, I guess.
right. It's interesting because, like with on one hand, like with them becoming modernized, they are getting better things, like you said, medical care and treatment and that sort of thing. And but then on the other hand, they are gonna get exposed to like, you know, the 40-hour work week and no vacation days and like just basically chasing money, like doing whatever you can to make more and more, and
Exactly.
that could destroy their society and culture and what they have going on. But let me let's get to like the bigger picture here. Like, do you think a matriarchal society like this is naturally a better society than what we have now? Maybe I asked this before, but I'll frame it like this: they didn't talk about sexuality at all in that documentary. But
I
what
mean,
if we? Oh,
the
go
only
ahead.
thing mentioned maybe like closely related to sexuality would be that women choose husbands,
Right,
they choose their mates, and then also like in the beginning there was this woman who was like, my husband did me wrong and I just left him.
right,
And, they also get to decide like when they can leave their husband and things.
right. But yeah, that's what I was gonna get at. The only relationships we saw in that documentary were heteronormative,
Yeah.
man, woman, husband, wife. What if we talk to the women of Orango and we ask them, can a woman marry a woman? And what if they just shake their head in disgust? What if they just say, "Oh, that's horrible"? And how would you how would you feel about that? Like if we find out that they have just horrible views, like what if we ask them about the Jews and they're just like, oh, no. you know,
I don't think they would be like that. I don't know the like LGBTQ community. They might be like backwards in that sense, but I don't think they're gonna hate on Jews. But anyway,
but just like for an example, like they just have really horrible other views. Like, yeah, it's a matriarchal society, yada yada. But then what if they say, you're supposed to beat your kids, like beat the hell out of them, like,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Like of course, just because the power is woman doesn't mean that power is always gonna be right or always gonna be sensitive and things like
Right.
that. That's not like how that stuff works, and obviously they have their own like traditions, and
Hmm.
for most like traditions it's not okay to have homosexual relationships. There are some
Hmm.
to do that, but not in the most of them. So, like, yeah, that is going to be a challenge. And I'm sure if there's like enough homosexual people in their community, maybe there would be a change, but we can never know.
Right.
Because
Right.
maybe even if, homosexuals in their society, maybe they just go to the bigger like country to Bissau instead of living in the
Uh,
island.
no, that's not allowed there either. Like most of Africa is pretty anti LGBTQ, and especially probably Guinea-Bissau. But yeah, not just focusing on LGBT rights, but in general, like you said, a society that's naturally matriarchal isn't inherently better. It's about the views that you have. So, is there any way to really compare cultures in this sense? Like, because there's some people that say that there are some cultures that are naturally better than others because of the values that they have. Could it be possible that this culture has, better values, or that different cultures compared to them have better values? What do you think about that?
Oh, I don't think any culture is better than the other culture. I think every culture has their good sides and bad sides. Uh,
Mm,
some cultures might, allow more freedom, but then they
mm,
might also allow more exploitation, for example, or
mm,
like Europe, like, or, the United States, they have all this freedom, but for example, in the United States, then you have like guns that are everywhere. Or
mm,
in Europe, you have this whole continent who made everyone else suffer,
mm,
you know. with exploitation and slavery and whatnot. So every culture is gonna have that bad side, and then every culture is gonna have their good values and good things about them and unique
Right.
things about them. So I don't believe there's like a better culture or not, but in terms of like talking in terms of matriarchal culture and patriarchal culture,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't want to be boring, but also with them, like, you can't really have one without the other. You,
Mm.
there will never be a time where there will be women existing without men, or vice versa. So it's
Well,
silly to think. No,
hold on,
don't
wait.
need you.
No, 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 no. I know you need me, but women in general don't need us. But I don't know if you remember that movie Pod Generation. They talked about a real scientific truth that women can reproduce without men. Like they
Yeah,
can take your stem cells, put it in an egg, and find a way to create a whole new human just from your own DNA.
yeah.
So,
But that doesn't mean we just want to kill all men. Still
but
need that, like, the yin and yang of the society, not necessarily one
mhm,
side being bad, but we need that sort of balance in the society. We ground
mhm,
each other. I feel like
right,
different sexes ground each other.
right,
So even though because of technological advances we might not need like the genitalia of men, or
mhm,
sperms of the men, or the eggs of the woman. Either side could be useless. I don't know. Um, but yeah, like, it doesn't mean that they are useless in the society, because it's not all about like that.
right,
Especially
right.
today, it's not all about that. Maybe 100 years ago, it was all about reproduction, but yeah, today it's a bit different.
Hmm. Right. Right. I think we're having some connection problems, but you're back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you guys are watching this on the playback, there might be some interruptions in the connection because we're sharing the same Wi-Fi because we share everything. But anyway, yeah, that's a very good point. Like, yeah, men and women do provide a yin and a yang, and I do think that there are some inherent differences with men and women. Right, biologically, we are different, but we have the capacity to be able to do a lot of the similar things in the society because of technology that equalizes a lot of things. You know what I mean? Of course, I don't think most women will ever be able to beat most men in arm wrestling, right? But most women and most men are all competent to do the same jobs: lawyers, doctors, presidents, CEOs, and that sort of thing. And this sort of society in Africa that we're talking about sort of proves it because they've been functioning for thousands of years like this with this society where women have been dominating and controlling and dictating who has power, and they're still here today. They survived colonialism. A lot of tribes in Africa did not survive colonialism, and that shows you that they must have something that works.
Yeah,
That's what I have to say about that.
yeah.
Yeah,
What do you think about the patriarchal society? Do you think it would work better?
a matriarchal society would work better.
Yeah, as a man, I want to hear your opinion, because of course, as a woman, I'm gonna support my lady.
In my opinion, I do think there would be some qualitative differences, like some very distinct differences, if women were actually in charge. The thing is that there are a lot of societies where women have a lot of power, right? Like, for example, in Rwanda, half of the parliament is women by law. They passed a law that said like 50% of all of our elected representatives have to be women. But still in Rwanda, abortion is like illegal or very restricted. There are women still make much less than men in that society in general, right? And there's also like a lack of LGBTQ rights. And in my personal opinion, I think most women are okay with allowing those sorts of relationships to exist in society. In my opinion, most women, in my opinion, do you
I'd
disagree with that?
I'd say it's mostly like men. Like, it's a scale. I don't know. I think men do take it personally for some reason when they talk about LGBTQ rights. Like they
Right.
get to this mindset like, bro, I'm not gay. But
Yeah.
I just women don't get into that mindset. Like they don't think like I'm not lesbian. I
Right.
don't like that, but there are a lot of women who are opposed to like same sex
Right.
relationships.
Right. 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 So in my just to get back to what I was talking about, like Rwanda is an example of a society where women have a lot of power, but still there aren't a lot of reflections of that in society. And I think there are other societies like that as well. So I think when we're talking about a matriarchal society, there would have to be something totally different than what we're imagining now. It's not just a woman president or a few women CEOs. It would be the richest women in the world, the richest people in the world all being women, the most powerful politicians all being women, the people with the most influence and power on society being women.
Mhm.
So, because right now, a lot of women who are in power are still influenced by people with money who tend to be old, rich white men who then tell them, hey, don't do this, don't do that. We want this, we want that as well. And to take it even deeper, it would have to be a change in religious thought as well, because so much of religion is bound up in the idea of men being in charge. God is a man, all of the prophets being men, most priests can most only be men, and a lot of the world is still dictated by, you know, uh, patriarchal religion.
Mhm.
And so a matriarchal world might be better, but it's so hard. It's like very hard to imagine that world existing because so much would change. Do you get what I'm saying?
Of course, it's hard because that's never the case, other than 90% island in the middle of.
Right.
But yeah, like of course I understand that it's hard, but yeah, I do agree with you to an extent. I do agree with you on the religion part. That's why I'm, not really interested in religion because
Hmm.
I think it's inherently sexist. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard to imagine, like you said.
Right. It's hard to imagine, but might there be less wars? Might there be, less conflict? Might we live in a more equal society? I don't know. I
No,
don't know. I I don't know. I really don't know. Do you remember that movie we watched, I Am Not an Easy Woman, the French movie?
yeah,
So for anybody who doesn't know, there's a French movie called I'm Not an Easy Woman. Basically, this guy gets hit in the head, wakes up in a world where everything's reversed. Women still give birth, but they're like super strong. They're all rich. They only want to sleep with men and then kick them out their apartments the next day.
it's a great movie.
It's an interesting movie, but that movie gave the opinion that our society would be the same, a bit, but it would just be women doing it instead of men.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know, man. Shout out to Craig Mack. He's checking in. Shout out.
Hey, so yeah, I mean, at this point in history, I don't think it would be like that, like how it was in the movie. I don't think it would be just woman being in power and just like bashing on men,
Hmm.
like how y'all did for centuries. I think if there is gonna be a change like that in the society, then it's gonna go into a direction where it's like more equal.
Hmm.
Obviously, after all of these things that happened in the
Hmm.
near, like near past or something. But
It.
I don't know if there would be less wars because you know we think more liberally. I don't know how
Hmm.
to put it,
Yeah.
but yeah, like, and we often think people think like us,
Hmm.
or the people who would have these discussions think like us, but not all of them do. And even if we had like full sort of rights in the government and things like that, I feel like there would still be a lot of like right wing governments in the world.
Yeah. I think I think there are still women, right, who would want to be like the most powerful woman. There will be a woman Putin, right? If we
Yeah.
lived in the alternate universe, there might still be the war in Ukraine because the facts are still the same. People need resources, water, food, shelter, energy, oil, gas, access to the sea, like people want these things. I think there would still be a female Ataturk, right? In an alternate universe. I don't know what her name would be, but I think it might still exist because these things are sort of natural to people to have conflict and fight. Because if if conflict was not natural, if conflict was not natural to women, we would never see, girls fighting online or hear
Yeah.
about, it's like conflict is natural to people.
Yeah, of course it is. And I always forget what I'm gonna say today. I'm kind of tired.
It's okay.
Do you have any other like topics that you wanna touch on?
I just want to let everybody know because now we're getting people piling into the chat. Maybe they're coming in late from work, but thank you for checking in. We're talking about this documentary about an African civilization where people live on an island and women are in control of that island. And we're just chopping it up about the ideas about that. And yeah, what do you think, Acti, about a lot of people who say that, let's just talk about stuff that maybe because we're up here right here in our conversation, right? But
Yeah.
I think we forget that a lot of the world is like down here. You know what I mean? So let's just talk about Africa real quick. Like, there's some people who leave comments under my videos saying that if I go to Africa as a white person or a non-African, that I might get killed or I might get attacked by savages. Like people leave these sorts of comments under my video. What do you say to people who say that? Like white people who say, if I go to Africa, it's dangerous for me. What do you think about that?
Uh from the countries that I've been in and we've been in, like Mauritius, Kenya, and Tanzania, um, I always felt safe. And we've talked this before with you, like in private. But the only thing that bothered me about being white in Africa was the weird white adoration.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I never felt like I was gonna get attacked. I never felt like I was gonna, somebody was gonna steal something from me. There were times we were staying in Arusha, and Arusha is a relatively smaller, like village town in Tanzania. There were times when I walked outside alone at like 12 a.m., 1 a.m., going to a cafe, and our house was in like the ghetto street, Sanawari. When we told people about our street, they said to us like, "Whoa, that's like the ghetto street." But I never realized that until those people said that to me. Because honestly, I felt safe all the time. And like I said,
Right.
I was alone at night. Did I still get like weird white adoration? Yes, but I never felt unsafe.
Right, right, right. All right. So for everybody out there, who thinks that Africa is not safe, Acti's letting you know she's tough and brave, but you're probably much more tougher and braver. So I don't know if you want to talk about the comment Craig Mack made. He said, "You want to read it for us?"
Wait, I need to. Okay. What do you think about the Jamaicans not being able to go on their beaches because of the foreigners buying up their land?
Right.
Okay. In Turkey, I grew up in a small touristic, you know, city. If they did that stuff to me, I'll be pissed. Because actually, our president, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, he bought this land that used to be a beach, and that used to be so beautiful, and it had like the best like sandy beach. And he bought that, and he built a villa for him, and now nobody can go there, and they close all the restaurants there that were like, people were earning their lives from there. So yeah, that like pissed people off. So and that's our own president doing that to us. So
Okay.
I would be even more pissed if foreigners were causing that.
Right. Right.
What do you think?
Yeah. No. That's it sounds wrong, but imagine like you and I get rich one day and we work very hard and we buy a house in Jamaica and then it comes with a private beach and then, we want to keep it just for ourselves or our family. Are we wrong for robbing the Jamaican people? We bought the land, we paid for it, we worked hard for it. I mean, on one hand, I can understand like Jamaicans are from that country; they should be able to enjoy their country. But on the other hand, like you know, what's up? What about us?
Uh, I really don't like private property.
Okay.
I'm okay with like buying a house, but I don't want to buy like a beach. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
I am empathizing with everyone. And when we were in Mauritius, for example, if you remember, we had to walk like for a very long time because all of the houses were bought by different people, and they had private beaches that we were not allowed in, but
Yeah.
then there was like the small section as like a public beach, and basically the whole coastal area was sold to people, and then you only get this like one little piece of beach.
Mhm.
I just think it's unfair, like share it, like
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be rich, but you're not like you're not a prince. I don't know. I don't approve of that, and I wouldn't necessarily do that if it's
Right.
not a super massive land.
Right. No, I agree with that as well because going to Mauritius, it was just ungodly how much of the beach was like taken by private ownership. Like when you go to Mauritius, guys, there's like maybe like 6 or 7 public beaches, really, like on the whole country, in the whole island. And it's kind of crazy that it's like that. And only a few of them are swimmable. La Cuvette, and I'm forgetting the other one, in Flick and Flack. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
uh, the Jamaicans. I haven't been to Jamaica in a while, but definitely Jamaica is a country that is controlled by uh, uh, former colonialists like the UK. They go there and spend a lot of money. The British go there and spend a lot of money, and yeah, of course they're going to have more purchasing power than the Jamaicans and price them out of their own property, and that's not right. So yeah, the Jamaicans need to have access to their own beach, but they're a country dependent on tourism, and that's another thing. So Craig Mack says they gave the colonizer reparations and didn't give the Jamaicans anything. You know what? Here's a more interesting take on that. By the way, shout out to Moody Sorobia. Moody Sorobia says, "Damn guys, I'm going into work. I will be back later." Actually, let me ask you this: should countries like Jamaica get reparations from the UK?
Mm, I don't really have that much like information about um reparations and Jamaica and the UK. Like I know they were colonized and things like that, obviously, but like, hell yeah, I guess. Because I feel like they're in a position to give reparations, and it would just make the world a bit more equal.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
if they can, then they should.
yeah. So, like, Jamaica was a colony of the UK, and they were mostly a sugar plantation, but also other things as well. And yeah, the UK extracted billions of dollars from that country and sort of left it poverty stricken when they gained their independence. So, I definitely do think they need reparations. Uh, should that reparations, do you think that money should go to the government or to the people, though? What do you think?
Well, that's such a weird question because the money that goes to the government should go to the people technically.
Mm, hmm, hmm.
But of course, that's not the case. So of course, like I would want it to go to the people, but that's not practical and realistic. So maybe it could be like a split or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because in the end, who suffers from the economical, hardship? It's gonna be the people, like who's
Right.
starving, who's not being able to buy his child the things that, his child needs and things like that. It's the
Right.
people who can't do that.
Right.
And not, the government is the government, you know.
Hmm.
It should
Hmm.
always work for the people. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Right.
I, ideally it should go to the people, but it won't, so maybe it could be like a division. I don't know.
Right. I think it can go to both of them, honestly. I think there can be reparations paid to the government and to the people, honestly. Because the people there were direct or are the descendants of slaves that the British monarchy sanctioned to go. And then also the government was abused as well by the UK.
Mm,
So I think both could happen, in my opinion. And there is money to do it. There's money to do it.
yeah. Most
Yeah.
of the time there is, like, most of the colonizers can give reparations, right?
Yeah. Right. So we only have a few minutes left in this live stream. So anybody have comments or questions, put them in. We're only going to be in here for a short time. But back to our main topic, talking about the women of Orango. Before we got sidetracked, I want to ask you, Acti, do you think you could survive in that society, like what you saw in the documentary? Do you think you could like make it with those women, or do you think you would tap out and say, "Take me back to patriarchy"?
No, I mean, it's different because I know I've lived in the Western society for so long, so it's different. Probably I wouldn't go there now. Like, I would want to visit, obviously, but I wouldn't choose to live there right now. If I was born there, I would probably be okay with it. Or even if I went outside of, that region, I would want to come back and contribute to my society,
Mm,
because their society seems like they're always there for each other.
mhm.
But I would kind of would like to live there when I retire
Yeah.
and just hang out in the farm with the girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and fish and rice and things.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. So you're gonna learn how to make their food, and then you're gonna teach them some Turkish delights, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I wouldn't want to, like, just, influence them with my Western Turkishness.
Right. But I mean, maybe they also need some new things. I don't know. I wish they spoke about like real things, like how did the women like deal with their menstruation? Like, how do they really give birth? When they give birth, do they do it like all in a natural way? Do they go to the hospital and get anesthesia? I wish they spoke more about some of the, real specific things in relation to like, women and
Uh,
women's lives and health.
I mean, I can possibly guess what they're doing during their period. Because, like, my grandmother used to have those type of, like, traditional ways of dealing with your period, for example. So I can guess, like, what they might be using, maybe like, some cotton or some fabric that they, use for that, maybe. But yeah, I was also curious about them, like, giving birth and how they manage that.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to me wanting to live in that society, or could I live in it? I think I could. I think if I was born there, of course, I would be used to it. But I think the thing that was interesting was I didn't see that many old men in the documentary. I was also wondering like that. I felt like that was missing. Like, okay, so the boys have different roles in this society, and they don't really have power. So what happens when they get older and they're unable to like be as active as they were or go out fishing and stuff like that. I was wondering what happened to them. Wonder if they got discarded or they left the island. I wonder what happened.
I don't think they got discarded. I think they're taken care of by the society.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
think so? Who knows? Who knows? There was just one old guy in this documentary, and you can see it in the descriptions after we finish this live stream and watch it for yourself and come to your own conclusions. But this African society really challenged me a lot when it came to, gender norms and rules. And it's not the only matriarchal society. There's like others in like what was it, Estonia,
Yeah,
China, Kenya.
Kenya, all over the world.
Yeah, yeah. But they're not really the norm. But it could be it could be the norm. It could be the norm for our society. But I think I think my conclusion from all of this is that the way we live right now is not the only way that it can be, and there are different ways, and there are better ways, and we have to learn from both of those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
What did you think about their religion? Because on this island, they have a very different view of God. Like God exists, but God does not help humans, and the only way to get help from God is actually through a woman or through the special women priestess. What do you think about their religion?
Um, I mean, when we were first watching it, if you remember, I said, "Hey, I believe in that." Yeah, it's like I don't have any set religion that I believe in, but I have like this sort of personal feelings about a creator, and yeah, they are kind of like similar to what I think might be, though I'm not like sure. But yeah, it was interesting because their religion is kind of also sexist because they believe that women are born fully capable of reincarnating. They believe in reincarnation,
Right.
but men are not born to be able to fully incarnate, and they have to fulfill some criteria in order to reincarnate when they die, basically. So yeah, women get like a free pass.
Hmm.
That's also kind of like, sexist, like discriminatory as well, I guess. But I thought it was interesting, and again, they incorporate nature in their lives so much, and I think that what provides so much harmony to them.
Right, right. Yeah, that's it's a very different way of looking at God. And yes, it is sexist. So I guess that sort of lets you know that religion has to have some sexist component to it. It's just either going to be in favor of one gender or the other. And yeah, they believe that women are born perfect and that men have flaws, which is very different than, Christianity and Islam and that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a different way of looking at God. Different way. It's just when I imagined this, I thought, oh, matriarchal society, they're going to be worshiping a goddess, and she's going to say, that
I
women
mean,
are powerful,
it
and
was a goddess. It was a goddess who had four daughters, and it's like the mythology of it. One of them ruled the sea, one of them ruled the land, one of them ruled the air, the other one ruled the harvest or something like that.
yeah.
So it was a goddess, but it was basically like a goddess far, far away that doesn't with y'all.
Right, right, right. And you know, do you see any similarities with like their society and like your culture? Because like in Black American culture, like Black women do have like a lot of say in the house, and we have that stereotype of the strong Black woman and that sort of thing. But there is some truth to that because a lot of our mothers, aunties, grandmothers, they took care of the house, they held it down, especially when a lot of Black men were unfairly killed or incarcerated. And so, like, from our tradition in my culture, women have had a very special role. And in my life, my mom was like the main breadwinner. She's the most educated one in my house. She's been like she's tough. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's what I noticed a lot also in that documentary too. Like there's a lot of similarities with those Black women in that island and the Black women I grew up with. What do you say?
I mean, yeah, there is like black culture, black American culture is like that, which is admirable. Unfortunately, like in Turkish culture, we don't have that. Women are mostly seen as, caretakers and housemakers and things like that. But if there would be only similarity would be like the respect for elders, I guess. Like they respect their elders, and that's like the most similar thing we have in Turkish culture. I wish we had more similarities, but we don't.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. Maybe my view of Turkey is skewed because of your mom. Like your mom is like a admirable woman. She's bossy. She's in control. She's tough as hell. She's independent, and so like the view that I have maybe of Turkey is that there are women like that, and they do exist in that society, but maybe it's not like a celebrated part of the culture. Because in our culture, we celebrate the strong, independent black woman, but maybe in Turkey that does exist. It's just not elevated. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely not every, it's definitely a low percentage, and the reason my mom is like that is because she was a single mom most of her life. So she kind of, gained those sort of strengths over time. And
Hmm.
yeah, like in the Turkish society, the working woman, you know, um, men see working women as things to be tied down.
Mm.
That yes, like she can work now, which is fine, but there will come a day where when she will have, kids, and she will stay at the house. And then
Hmm.
after the kids are grown, she can go back to work if she wants.
Yeah.
So there's that period where she is 100% expected to just like, chill for like a good 10 years.
Hmm. Right. And do you think like that even exists with your younger generation too? Like even with like your people of your age group?
Um, no, I mean, it's getting better. There are more diverse opinions. There are people who say they don't want kids. There are also like younger women who is only aimed to get married, which is fine too. Like, so there are like different opinions that are coming up. But if you just look at the bigger picture, it's still not like there, like
Yeah.
how it is in, let's say, Black American culture or Western culture.
Right, right. Like for me, like I just have to say this and I know we're over time. I'm sorry. Do you have to go?
No, it's okay.
Just the last thing I'll say, and guys, I see there's a lot of people. All right, so Craig Mack is checking out. See you, Craig Mack. I'll talk to you later. But I'll just end with this. Like when I was watching this documentary about these women, running this society, for me it was not that radical. I was challenged by it by just watching the gender rules still sort of happening in front of me. But when it comes to like sexism and seeing women as incapable and not as good as a man and that sort of thing. That's something that's been so hard for me to understand a view that other people have because growing up as a Black American in America, where we have the idea of the strong, independent Black woman, where we have women in our lives who are actually living that thing out in front of you, and when you have role models like a woman, like your mom, who's out there working a job, still comes home and takes care of you, and still gives you that guidance and clarity, it's hard to look at women and say that they're less or that you're
Yeah.
better just because you have a penis. And that's something I could never understand that people thought. You know what I mean? So that's what I just have to say about that. So watching this documentary showed me that, you know, our ancestors had similar things, but also in Africa, there's everything. Like there's all sorts of societies, traditional patriarchal societies, matriarchal societies, and everything in between.
Yeah.
Just further proving that Africa has been the home for all sorts of civilizations for since the beginning of time. You know what I mean? That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I think also that proves that there's no maybe one way for humans to be happy. Like there's no one way that a society would be happy, or it could be a collection of multiple things maybe. And
Mm.
you know, people, it's natural for people to try out different things and have different sort of systems, and they could work differently. And not all of them are necessarily bad or good, but all of
Mm.
them have their good sides and bad sides. So I think that says a lot about just like us in general as well.
Yeah, very good points. Very good. Hey, you know I love you, right?
Love you too.
Mm. So, thank you everybody for watching on this live stream, whether you're watching it now or watching it on the playback. We ran a little bit over time, but the conversation started getting good. I like that. Did you like that, actually?
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, it was nice. So, thank you once again for coming. We want to see you back here, and yeah, I'll catch y'all next time. Got to do more live streams. I got some more work to do, so I'll catch y'all next time. So, peace. Ciao.